It's time now for another edition of the Canalta Hotels AJHL Coaches Show. I am Taylor Medak, and we can maybe change this to the Canalta Hotels GM AJHL Show, as I'm joined by Sherwood Park Crusaders General Manager Kyle Chase. Kyle, thanks a lot for taking the time to join me here. We're in Grande Prairie. The Inter Pipeline playoffs started last night here in Grande Prairie. You guys fell, unfortunately, to the Grande Prairie Storm by a score of 4-1 down in the series. But just talk about that game overall for a group that most of those guys saw their first ever playoff game last night here in Grande Prairie.
Well, that's a fantastic point, Taylor. I think we had a lot of rookies in the game as far as playoffs in the Alberta Junior League go, and I think it was a learning curve for them. I think we had some opportunities to score in the beginning of the game, early in the game. We were wishing pucks in versus willing them in at that point, and I think their goaltender made the saves he needed to. Brandon Vogel was very good early, and kept us in it too as well. So from that experience for the young guys, I think they know what to expect tonight. I think they will come out a little different and know that every goal is paramount especially in a short series of 5 games.
Well, and too, between these two clubs, your team and the Grande Prairie Storm, the key is shutting down the top guys. And for the Storm, they did that last night, not allowing Dylan Stewart to get things going. He had 9 goals against the Storm throughout the year. And then on the flip side, guys like Edward Michaud able to score, Justin Bernier involved in the game as well. What's the key in your mind for you guys, in Adam and Jeff and the players, on shutting down the Storm top guys in this series? Because that's really what it's going to come down to, especially when you're getting good goaltending at both ends.
Absolutely, and I think part of that would be paying closer attention to those guys at all times, because when there's a turnover, they pounce. Yeah. That's what they do. Those guys they got from Quebec Major Junior League, they're good players. I mean, they're skilled, highly skilled, and you maybe don't notice them throughout the whole game, but then there's a play where you notice them, and usually that's the time that the puck's back in the back of your net. When Michaud scored his power play goal, it was almost a broken play for the most part, right? And then it's in the back of your net. So I think, like you say, a little more attention to detail on our own end, and being aware of when those guys are on the ice.
I asked Adam this question. How key is it to have a guy like Arjun Atwal in your lineup for the postseason? As last year, he had started out great and then made the jump to Saskatoon. Comes back to you guys this year, and you have him for the postseason. Feel like it's going to be, a case where he's just ready to explode, so to say.
Yeah, I think so. And one of the things about Arjun, as you already know, is he's one of the hardest workers on the ice every night. So having him and that work ethic, and guys like him and Zapernick that work, and no disrespect to some of our other guys, but they could bring that element a little more when the playoffs come, and they're going to need to tonight if we need to get back in the series.
What's fun about coming up to Grande Prairie, because that the building at Revolution Arena can be rocking. You had a nephew play in Grande Prairie at a point where they were really good at hosting the RBC as well. So from a player standpoint, maybe Game 2 might be a little bit fuller than Game 1, but as an opposing opposition player or team personnel, it's got to be kind of neat if that building could get full and your guys could maybe feed off that in a sense that, hey, we're playing in front of a lot of people. It's pretty exciting.
Well, that's right, and I mean, tonight probably will be a better opportunity for them to have more fans. I think tonight, seeing what the outcome was last night, and Murray Taves has done a very good job quarterbacking this whole team so far and rebuilding it, if you want to call it that, and I know Murray pretty good, and he's a good guy, and he's been great for minor hockey, especially in the Grande Prairie area, and Matt's done a really good job with this group. So there is a lot of parity with the two teams right now as far as youth goes, and as far as the coaches go, relatively new to the league, Adam and Jeff as well, and then the on-ice product too is very similar. Like they're almost mirrors of each team. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting as far as the building goes. One of the best junior A hockey rinks in our league for sure, and maybe in Western Canada. It's a fantastic facility. I mean. It'd be nice to see them get a little better turnout, but I think we all struggle with that sometimes in today's economy in Alberta.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly right. So I guess maybe one more on the series before we kind of ask you about this team as a whole. As you're the architect of the Crusaders, and that's kind of why we had you on here today. It's been a home team series throughout the regular season. Case last night as well. You guys are going to have to win one game in Grande Prairie, but do you feel that it's still up for the taking, even though you're down a game and you're going to need to win 3 out of the next 4?
Yeah, I mean, there was a point in the game last night, early in the third period, where we were down 3-1, and Cox and Reedman are on a 2-on-1, and Ryan chose to try to make the pass, and Ryan Cox, the shooter, I think he had 2 crossbars and a post yesterday and a goal. I mean, that's what happens. He can score a goal. So you'd like to see the shooter shoot. And I mean, we score that goal right there. We get a goal right there, and it's 3-2, and we're right back in the hockey game. And I feel like we're capable of winning. I'm not calling that shot, but we're capable of putting a couple of good games together in Grande Prairie and possibly taking one of them.
All right, you mentioned Ryan Cox. Let's start right there. At the time you acquired him, probably the biggest deal in the AJHL of the year. Just a quick flip between you and Fort McMurray. You send Merida Zitko to Fort McMurray. You get Ryan Cox back, and he was just fantastic for you guys all year. Led the team in goals, and you said he's a shooter, not a passer, and that's basically what it's been all year. He tries to almost put the puck through the net versus in it. Yeah,
he's got a heavy pro shot, great release. He zips it, and it doesn't look like it's he just flicks it, and it's a bullet, right? And it catches a lot of goalies by surprise about how quick it's in the back of the net. And he had Slobodian beat a couple of times last night, and and it went off the pipe, and that's rough luck. I mean, we were up here in the middle of the year, and he had, I think, 5 or 6 posts and crossbars that game. Ryan could have had 50 goals this year with a little bit of luck, and I mean he's got some fantastic hands, and it's a huge acquisition for us because we were having trouble scoring goals, and Merritt, it worked out really well for Merritt and Fort McMurray, and it's worked out well for us with having Ryan. So I think both teams are fairly satisfied, which is good too, because you always want to keep a trading partner that you don't like to see teams lose those deals, because you want to. If you needed to have a piece added to your team in the future, you want to have some partners to move around, or to trade with, rather. Do
you find that that happens at a lot of levels, where there's teams that do trade with each other consistently, pardon me, and that's a reason because they know kind of what they're going to get from one another in a sense?
Yeah, I do. I think there's some trust built there. I think there's some, there's the opportunity for teams to, learn a little bit, and Tom and I have a good relationship in Fort McMurray where we can move players. Gordon and I as well, and let's be clear, I think we all do to some degree. I think there's some guys that you just have this. Like Spruce Grove. I don't think we make a bunch of deals with Spruce Grove because you're more rivalries than you are, in a sense of, maybe not necessarily in the standings, but your rivalries, when you're trying to acquire players and that. So it's, there's sometimes that unwritten rule, I think, Taylor. It's almost as though the Flames and the Oilers, they don't trade players a lot, right? Yeah. And the irony is there's been a few, but I mean, that's not usually the way it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you did acquire Tyson Gruniger this year.
Right, but I will tell you, they will trade with the New York Islanders if they want. So that's
absolutely. Well, speaking of trades, Dylan Stewart, you acquired in the summer. That kind of filled maybe a bit of a void down the middle for you guys, and some size as well. Throughout the year, I've asked Adam and Jeff, and did you ever think, and even Dylan too as well, did you ever think he could have the year that he had, over 30 goals, over 30 points, tied for the team lead in scoring with Ryan Cox? He's committed to Nate now just the other day. He's just put his season into words, and really a magical season for him personally.
Well, I mean, this wasn't as much genius as it fell upon us. Dylan wanted to play closer to home, and Rick Swan had reached out to me and said, is this a player you're interested to? And we jumped as fast as we could possibly at it, and I think in the beginning you're hoping that you just have a big centerman down the middle, and maybe he'd be a really good third line guy. And Dylan's numbers weren't staggering last year, so you sit there and go, okay, well, you know, if we could get 40 points out of Dylan Stewart and, you know, 15 to 18 goals area, boy, oh boy, we're fortunate. I mean, but credit to Adam, credit to Jeff and Dylan's put the work in. So, and he's been a terrific teammate, and he's just been first class the whole time. And Rick told me that. I mean, Rick, there's another guy that, you know, he's very good when you're trading players. He's very forthright, and he doesn't pull punches. He'll tell you exactly about the player and the person, and that's why I have a lot of respect for Rick.
Having to rebuild the back end as well with some guys departing last year, and then you do have a couple veterans, and you get Benny McLeod, who didn't start the year with you guys, joined a couple games in, so that was good to get him back. But you build with a few 2000s as well, and you kind of mentioned when we spoke earlier in the year, whether it was team-related stuff, there's going to be some long nights because you do have some young guys experience some things, and maybe those long nights kind of happened later on in the year, as we didn't really expect to have that losing streak for you guys. But having said that, you got to like the potential on the back end with not only Benny and Brendan Callis helping the guys along the way, but if Tyler Jetty's able to come back, he's been stellar for you in a very small window. But guys like Michael Bentz, Blair Bush, Peyton McIsaac have really really grown over the year.
They have, and our whole group of 4 17-year-old D-men, that's a tall order, right? We were a chopped up bunch in the beginning of the year as far as the backside goes, and having Ben McLeod come back and acquiring Brendan Callis through the Manitoba Junior League through Steinbach, and then and bringing in some guys to, I don't want to say patchwork, but pulling out all the stops to try and get as many options on the back end as we had, and I guess we felt that going forward with bringing Jetty in and how good he was offensively, that we could move Tyler Pang at the deadline and acquire Brinsda and Gruninger and get those players in, and I think our back end has come a long way, Taylor. I know that the young guys, it's been a steep learning curve, and even last night, watching sometimes where it's just that moment in time where you can see that they're just young yet, right? And but as far as McLeod and Callis and their leadership, and even Tyler Jetty since the day he's got here has been, a really good leader for us. And I mean, Ben McLeod, he's a force out there when he's probably, in my opinion, for my money, the best shutdown guy in our league, and he absolutely terrifies people when they come down the ice, because they're like, I'll just go the other way. I'm not going down his side. I mean, he throws some heavy body checks, and they're all clean, and and he keeps guys honest out there. It's the best way to say it.
Well, even too, when you try to hit Ben McLeod, you might be the one falling to the ice, as we've seen a couple times last night. A lot of people probably want to know, there's always a guy in each team that you wonder, why doesn't he have a deal yet? And I think that's Ben McLeod with the Sherwood Park Crusaders. Do you feel that something will happen for Ben, whether it's down south or maybe something in the Edmonton area? I know he wants to go to school, and he's certainly weighing some options right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the first thing that comes to my mind all the time. And there's two guys in particular that at this moment, and there's some younger guys that are going to have that moment too, and in Clegg and Blanchette and Zapernick and all those younger guys. But for me, it's Ben McLeod and it's Ryan Cox. I mean, Cox had third in the league in goals, and he's a way better skater than people are giving him credit for. Now, as far as Benny McLeod goes, I don't understand it at all. So it makes he's fantastic. I don't know who wouldn't want him on their team as a teammate, as a player, and as a person. And he's fantastic in school. So I guess time will tell. I mean, Ryan Kruper went to RIT at late in his 20-year-old year, and I'm hoping that same thing happens with Ben McLeod to a school, because truthfully, Ben deserves it, and he's earned it. I mean, he's flat out earned it. If you talk to any of the other, hey, my phone rang off the hook at the deadline for Ben McLeod. Yeah. So it's not as though that's an accident. GMs in the league know what's going on, and everybody wanted that guy. So
the proof's in the pudding.
That should tell you everything.
Absolutely. Right? We have to ask you about goaltending, because you try and add some depth at the deadline, and unfortunately Josh Brinsda goes down with an injury, and then Brandon Vogel has seen a lot of hockey throughout the year. He's got the most appearances from a rookie goaltender in the league, 40-plus games he was in. played fantastic in game one. You know, in the past couple of years, if everyone knows, you know, the Crusaders and just you know, follows the league closely, you've had to deal with some goaltending issues, we'll say. Have you ever seen anything like that in the game of hockey, whether it's related to you or anyone else?
No. Are you talking about in a sense of the rookie playing that much, or are you talking about in the sense of our goaltending woes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's been a tough time, right? I mean we had the rights to Kyle Dumba. He didn't want to come to Sherwood Park. He wanted to go out to BC, and we had to, you know, make a transaction there. We had acquired Josh Duchesne from LaRange, and you know Randy Hanch ran into some goaltending injuries with Travis Child with the Edmonton Oil Kings, and he's their property. So we lost him, and we kind of thought maybe we might get another guy back from the Western Hockey League, as we do hold the rights to Matt Berlin.
Yeah.
Ryan's his older brother, pardon me, Matt Berlin. And
Prince and Tiger.
yeah, I'm sure you'll edit that. Anyways, yeah, and in saying that, I think the biggest part for us was more or less just trying to figure out, is this goalie going to come back? Is that goalie going to come back? And then we tried to make some acquisitions at the deadline, and luckily we fell onto Josh with Olds, and it was going to work out fantastic. And then obviously, you know what happened there, and you know in his first start he tore some soft tissue or soft cartilage and in his ankle and foot, and he's been out since. So it's been a really difficult time. But I will say this, Ben Rashog's been really good, you know, helping us through a tough time. Not unlike what Vogel did last year for us. Ben Rashog's been really good. And just a quiet guy that's just a first-class kid, and then Vogue's, what do you say? He's had all the pressure all year, and you know he's had to carry the mail. He started off really good and went through it, you know, battled the puck a little bit for a while in the middle of the year, and his game looks like it's back to where it needs to be for us. I thought he was fantastic in the first period yesterday. I thought, you know, it kept us really kind of in it, Taylor, if you will.
Yeah, he made some big saves, that's for sure. Let's look at kind of the rest of the postseason as a whole. Some, you know, the teams that are at the top. That's usually how we've seen it over the last couple of years. Spruce Grove gets the bye. The Saints have been quite the force this year not only in the North Division but the league. And then you have Fort McMurray taking on the Bonneville Pontiacs, and then Whitecourt as well, hosting Lloydminster in the first round. Some real good matchups, I think, in each series, because each of those teams have had success against one another, even though the difference in the standings. But how do you see the first round playing out? Obviously, you guys want to be back in the second round, but you know, how do you see maybe the rest unfold this postseason?
One thing I know for sure is Spruce Grove will be in the second round. Yeah. I mean, obviously, we'd like to win our series and get to the opportunity to play Spruce Grove, and you know, it's always been a fun series, and it's economically it's been fantastic for both organizations, and you know, when I look at the other series, I guess I you know, you want to go to the Fort McMurray series, I guess, you know, is that something that, you know, that Bonneville could upset them? I don't know. They always play tough. I mean, they play tough against each other. Yeah. So that's a unique series that you know, I don't want to count out Bonneville, because they've put together some really good games, especially against us early in the year, right? And you know, Rick's done a good job of trying to acquire players for his older guys, and you know, and kind of mid-season trying to do his rebuild during the middle of the season, and trading Morocco and trading Derek Brown and guys like that. So I think he's done a really good job, and I think they're getting better each game, and you can see that on the scoreboard, right? And then as far as Whitecourt and Lloyd, Whitecourt can just flat out score, right? They score goals, and their coach, you know, he's a very good playoff coach, and Gordon, he's got a ton of experience, and I mean, the X factor is going to be Bailey Birkin in Lloyd, and he can win games. Yeah. I mean, we've seen it, as right? You guys saw, yeah. Right. So he can win you hockey games, and nothing's better than a hot goalie in the playoffs, right? It levels the playing field in a hurry, doesn't it? Yeah. So if you don't score on your chances, like we did last night in the first period, you know, the game can catch up to you. You know, you can get behind in a hurry, and then next thing you know, it's you know, it's too little, too late. And I think, you know, if Whitecourt can get to Bailey, they, they should be okay, but he's the X factor. There's no denying that. And good on Travis Clayton for acquiring that goaltender at the deadline. So that was a good move.
And my next question was going to be, is it simply in the playoffs? Is it just goaltending and special teams? Is it flat out that? Obviously, there's other intangibles, but you always, when you look at a box score, it always seems to fall to those two items.
I think so, and I think limiting your mistakes in your own end, right? I mean, limiting your breakdowns in your own end. We had a couple of them last night, and the puck was in the back of our net, right? So, little things. You get a chance to ice the puck on the PK, it's got to go down the ice.
Yeah, you may only get one chance.
That's it. So 2 goals last night, those are the things that stick out in my mind for, to have success, you're going to have to do the little things. And those seem like very small things. Dumping pucks in and hitting the defenseman in the chest versus getting it off the boards and in deep so that you can make a change to a tired group. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just little things that, I know it sounds very tedious, but they end up being big factors in the game, right? And you get locked out there for a minute and a half against, Bernier, Michaud, and Okabe, and they're fantastic players. So you're gonna, they're gonna wear you down out there. They're gonna tire you out and score eventually.
Yeah. You mentioned Spruce Grove gets the bye, and most likely, barring an upset in any of the other series, the winner of this series will face Spruce Grove in the first round. Another year where they get back to the top. But you mentioned Ryan Cox could have scored 50 with some luck. Chris Van Oshaw became the first guy to score 50 goals in the league since 2006 when Mark Letestu did. Does that just show you how hard of a league it is to play in because of the goaltending that can be in this league? Guys continually get pumped to Division I NCAA in terms of goaltending. We see a lot of guys go down south, as well as the defensemen in this league.
Yeah, I mean, it does pump me up. I mean, 2 things here. So, Rob Sklaruk I've known for 30 years, and the GM in Spruce Grove. And he said to me, honestly, Rob loved scoring goals when we were young. He loved scoring goals. There wasn't a shot Rob didn't like to take, right? And Chris is a very similar player. Yeah. I mean, he's not a selfish player. He's very unselfish, in fact. But he loves scoring goals, and you can see it on his face. And Rob said at practice, he makes guys accountable. He makes them work harder. He makes, and what that does is it just festers in your group, and everybody starts playing that way. Yeah. And Rob's really happy with what Chris has done. I'm extremely proud of him. He's, from all accounts, I hear he's a fantastic kid. So I do know that his on ice play is just a step ahead of most guys in our league, if not all the guys in our league. Spruce Grove's very deep. Hats off to Rob on that deal, because I think he was riding some heat for trading Connor Lucan, who might have been, arguably their captain this year of the Spruce Grove Saints, and Rob got a little bit of grief early, and and he did the deal anyways, and guys in the league were saying, I hope you did your homework and all this stuff, and it sounds like he did his homework. So, for a new GM in the league to be that to be one of his first transactions, is a pretty good start for Rob. So, all those guys that you mentioned, I mean, I'm proud of all the players in our league. Most organizations do a really good job of promoting their players. I know we've taken another step to do some other things that we hadn't done in the past, and Adam and Jeff have done a fantastic job with that stuff as far as video clipping and sending packages to schools, that type of thing, and trying to get out in front of it a little bit to try and help the players as much as we can. But if you want me to talk about the team that's probably the most rounded, I mean, Spruce Grove's back end's fantastic. They have a very good back end. I mean, boy, I don't want to call it an embarrassment of riches, but it's close. And their goaltending's very good. So Kent's probably one of the best goalies in the league, right? And if not the best. And and then they've got the MVP of the league, and then they've got a bunch of really good young players, and the Logan Gainies of the world, and that Josh Harris's and guys like that are just really good two-way players, right? Yeah. So, and then their young group, Parker Soretsky had a bang up here, and bringing in Chase Olsen from Olds. Rob thought he needed to add somebody to get Van Oshaw the puck, and and it worked, right? Yeah. So, I think if I'm a betting man, I would, it wouldn't shock me to see Spruce Grove come out of the North. Yeah.
Well, it should be interesting. I mean, this kind of turned into a playoff preview, but we did get to dissect the makeup of the Crusaders this year. It's been an exciting year in Sherwood Park. Certainly, people have been talking about the job that you guys have done east of Edmonton, that's for sure. And you just want to make, everyone wants to make their hockey program at the top and excellent, certainly a process. So Kyle, thanks a lot for joining me here on the Canalta Hotels AJHL Coaches Show. It was the GM show today, but we certainly enjoyed having you on, and we look forward to bringing you more AJHL Canalta Hotels Coaches Show throughout the 2018 Inter Pipeline playoffs.